When was the last time someone or something showed up right when you needed it? I am Tavish Cardiff. It is our Raw Materials Resource Week, so I'm here to talk a little bit about the pillar of resource and how we use it to access our spirituality or our spiritual nature or our connection to that thing that is outside of us that we are all connected to. I just returned from a visitation this morning. Good friend from high school who, 35 years ago was someone important to me, and going in and walking into his life, being around the people that have known him that whole time and stayed close with him, his wife, his family, being near that energy, I can't even explain the level of resource that gave me to know how cared for he's been in his life, to watch the photos of who he has been these last years. I see him when we show up at a reunion, but beyond that, I'm not seeing the life of that friend that meant so much to me, and testament to the room full of people, to so many people that went to high school with him. He was still friends with several of the guys he was friends with back then, and I think that's just a nod to who he is and how he's chosen to live his life. Amazing human being. And as a resource, the spirit of him, the spirit of his family, being able to look at his mom, his wife, his dad, his brother, and connect the heart to the heart of the kid that I knew. And I'm just grateful, sitting here in a lot of gratitude for that resource, something that I will be able to take with me into Resource Week and into every future Resource Week, because the essence of Monroe is something that we each could use quite a bit of in our hearts. The resource pillar reminds us that the things that we need are readily available to us when we clear the path to see them. Over the weekend, my husband's starter went out on his car, and it was a day that he had so many things to do. It was Saturday morning, full weekend, needed use of the truck, and instead of getting upset or trying to figure out a way to call a place and get it done on a Saturday morning, he reached out to the disc golf community, and by noon he had fed the guy that came to fix our starter. The starter was fixed. He was back on the road 3 hours after recognizing the problem. It's amazing the community of disc golf and the resources that we get just from being a part of that community. But outside of disc golf, there are other communities everywhere that are offering support to each other. In my neighborhood, and I'm sure anyone else's, there's that next door group. And I don't get on and read much of what they do, but I definitely see calls for help and offers for support. And it seems like every time I check in on that, there's something that I can easily do or give that doesn't even take me far out of the way of what I'm already doing. Being a resource sometimes means just being able to listen, or just being able to offer a smile when somebody needs one, a deep breath when somebody's upset. Those are resources that we can offer to our fellow human beings that don't cost us a dime and really don't take anything away from what we're already doing. We're just adding some intention to it and making it move or ripple a little beyond ourselves. That is the point of the pillar of resource, to recognize yourself as a resource, offer what you can, and be willing to take in resources from others, because being able to give and receive offers an exchange that, when we're only used to doing one of them, puts us in a position to not appreciate the entire exchange and what it means. In our raw material, when we look to resource, we're really looking to the spiritual nature of giving and receiving, and what that does in terms of helping us remember that we are all connected. The 10th week is the resource pillar, and 2, 6, and 10 are all spiritual weeks. We start with music, we move to listening, and then finally we get to resources. In music, we're hearing that voice that starts to tell us we're connected to something else. through simple things like song lyrics, through the things that have meant something to us over the years, the sounds that we connect to. When we look to listening, now we're in the middle of the business end of our spirituality. What do we actually take in? What do we allow to be true? Where are our judgments? What sort of feed are we giving ourselves in terms of the right nutrients for how our brain works and how we see ourselves, how we think about our lives, and how we see our lives, no matter what conditions our lives may have. And then we get to where we are right now, resources, which falls between intention and aligning with intention. Again, back to intention for a minute. All of our emotions push this intentional space, and we wind up gathering the resources to complete the intentions that we actually want to align with or are able to align with. We want them all, right? Resource Week helps us tap into the ability to actually get things done beyond just doing them by ourselves. When we step back without getting upset about what it's going to take to do something, or the time it's going to take, or the effort, just like this past weekend with my husband, I don't think he spent 1 minute worried about what he was going to do, just trusted that some way he was going to get this done and he was going to get through the weekend the way he needed to. And I can think of another time period in our lives where we weren't practicing our raw material, where that might have sidelined so many things and dampened the mood and made the weekend a little more challenging. As it was, we had something to be so grateful for, and we found ourselves laughing and appreciating the hard work that we spent our entire weekend doing. Seeing yourself a resource can be a challenge if you don't feel like you have things to give. It's easy to, have abundance in money and be able to write a check and help a situation. That's fantastic. But a lot of us aren't running around with the means or ability to do that. So when we look to where we can offer a resource, sometimes we have to dig a little deeper to find what we can give that could be as meaningful as, adding to a cause. So there are so many things even related to our thoughts that can be a resource. Instead of spending time in fear or worry about a thing, imagining the thing prosperous, imagining the thing doing well. We all know what's going on in Maui right now in the recovery, and then California is getting flooded. When we think about resources and the shortage that exists in those places right now and the conditions that have created that, what I like to do is think about the community and what the community really will be able to pull together. When we look at human interest stories, we will always be able to find those people who did have this miraculous situation where they could help, or in Maui's case, at one particular church that nothing happened to it, that tree that they've been protecting, still safe. We look to see that the resources that we've counted on sometimes still show up when the other ones that we might take for granted disappear. It feels like you're losing everything. And from a possession standpoint, we're seeing a different landscape now, and we're seeing communities have to come together in a way that they didn't anticipate having to do. But when certain people step up with the very thing that they have to offer and the next person needs it, that is what the resource pillar is all about. When we step out of the way of our fear and our worry to see where things can actually get solved and handled, that's when we're really leaning into resources. Practice guidance for this week. Take some time recognizing what things you have extra. And if there's any way to donate or give any of those things tangibly, do it. If there's any way to give creative thought, if there's any way to think about the best outcome for some of these places that are really struggling to meet basic needs right now, we can be a resource at every level. There's an old song, Weapon of Prayer by the Notting Hillbillies. And I think the lyric goes, we don't have to be a soldier in a uniform to be of service over there. And I think that power of going into ourselves, whether you call it prayer, whether you call it good thoughts, whether you call it whatever you want to call it, sending that energy that connects with the people that need it is the best resource we can be for areas and conditions that are in trouble that we can't reach. As we close out this week and look to next week's Aligning with Intention, I just want to express some deep gratitude for my friends and family and the community of people that I have had the privilege of knowing for 55 years, and loving the fact that they show up for our high school friend on a Monday morning just to be present and in his presence. Thanks. I'll be back next week to talk about aligning with intention, and as always, have a fantastic week.